Yeah. So Supergirl is the second big installment in the new DCU, basically following Superman. And there was so much hype for this movie, man. Like, if you go back and look at the announcement tweet, like the look out that James Gunn posted, it like on Twitter has like 400,000 likes or something, like so many views. If you go through the comments, like people were genuinely excited for this movie, outside of the weird haters, right? But people wanted this, especially after seeing Superman. And I can understand why. When James Gunn put out that video showing the DC slate, or the plans for the future of the DCU, one of the things he mentioned was Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which many of you probably know. The film is basically adapting that comic, and it's one of the most well-regarded and glazed comics I've seen in recent times. I've heard so many people say so many phenomenal things about the book. I mean, if you just look at it, man, like, this book is actually beautiful. Like, even if you just look at this artistically, like the work from, I think you say Bilquis Evely, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, it literally immaculate. Some of the best art I've seen in a comic. It's just so vibrant, colorful, alive. It feels like its own beautiful journey, and it's interesting because the book is honestly kind of dark and contrasts that, and I think that kind of ties in with what the book's trying to do and what Supergirl does for the story in the book. But yeah, this story this book covers is really just like a long emotional journey about grief, struggle, perseverance, morality, and what it means to be good. And it almost feels like a side quest for Kara, but the emotional impact of the book is so heavy that it just ends up feeling like something much more personal and intimate, that it's so much more than just this side quest for her. So when I heard that this movie was getting adapted, I was extremely excited. I've had a friend tell me that the book was amazing. I've seen so many people talk about the comic and how good it is, how beautiful it is. So I've heard literally nothing but good things about this book. Because of that, I forced myself to watch the movie without reading the comic, just in case they changed things and it like really bothered me. I wanted to make sure I went into the movie like with, not expecting a whole lot, But I did end up seeing the movie like 3 or 4 days ago now, and initially I saw so much hate for this movie and people just crashing out online about how terrible the writing was, how bad the VFX were, how bad the action is, how ugly it looks, like so many different aspects of the film. So I'm not gonna lie, I went in with that in my head, and if I'm being honest, I liked a majority of the film. I was honestly expecting it to be pretty bad, but by the time I was like actually sitting there watching it, I thoroughly enjoyed the film up until maybe like the third half, where I think things got kind of shaky and where I can see people kind of hated it. So first things first, I'd like to talk about the pros of the movie, what I really liked. So I have just finished reading the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow comic like 2 days ago. There are a lot of changes to the source material, obviously, which is fine because these are very different versions of Kara. One is a completely established version of Supergirl who is well known throughout the galaxy or universe or whatever. She's already like full-time, Supergirl. This version that we have in the movie, she seems to be not as established, right? She's kind of still finding her own path and struggling with what happened to her and how she's dealing with that kind of grief. So because they're two different characters, they kind of require a little bit of a different story, which is understandable. And personally, one of the things I really liked about this movie was what they were going for with Supergirl. I liked how in Superman she appeared in this like drunken stupor and she kind of seemed all over the place. I liked how she seemed way more rough around the edges compared to Superman, and she seemed like she was the type to have like a lot more fun than him in that regard. It was obvious to me that her movie was going to be very intimate and personal and more coming of age, just based alone on what they showed of her in Superman, which made me really excited for the movie and how her character would unravel in it. Another pro for me from this movie is just Millie Alcock herself, which I think almost everyone can agree with, right? She is just amazing as Kara. Like when I was watching it, I was like, this is Supergirl. I think it was perfect casting. I think she did a fantastic job, and I'm just really happy she is Supergirl, and I can't wait to see more of her. Another thing that I thought was done differently than the comic, but pretty well in this movie, were the flashback scenes to her life on Krypton or Argo City. This was, like I said, a bit of a change, because in the comic she had actually been alive when Krypton blew up, and basically seen her people go nearly extinct like 3 times by the time she was 14. So this isn't really a big change, and I think it works in the grand scheme of things, especially with how they're handling the age difference between Kara and Clark in the new DCU. But yeah, I really liked how they put an emphasis on her parents telling her to be good, and her dad just basically being the GOAT. And I think that whole part of the movie was done extremely well. There was one thing that felt a little funny though, when we were watching the Krypton flashbacks in Supergirl. It was the fact that in Superman we learned that Superman's parents were evil Kryptonians who basically wanted him to start a super harem and colonize Earth, which just feels kind of weird after watching this movie, because they all seem so good from her perspective, and I honestly wish they retconned that in Superman, because it was one of the most iffy parts of the Superman movie in my opinion. But yeah, just adding on to this, I think this movie had some really good emotional beats. Like when Kara is talking to Ruthie about her past and basically telling her her whole story, I felt those parts really hit, and it, like, Millie did a really good job of, you know, communicating what Kara felt and how she was dealing with all this grief and why her life was so messed up. And Ruthie's back and forth with her really exposed that, and I just thought it was handled really good. Also, the part where Kara flies up in the sky in space and just screams in this emotional agony and overload, that part was so beautiful, and it was basically nearly adapted straight out of the comic, which was really cool to see on the big screen. And so yeah, just moments like that. I think the film had a lot of really good emotional moments that were just very impactful. I also really like how this movie wasn't afraid to show this like universe or galaxy and what it looked like in this new DCU outside of Earth. There was a wide variety of like weird creatures and space stuff, which I thought was really cool and just, you know, refreshing to see. I also really like how this film felt very separate from Superman. It really had its own vibe, and yes, you could still say it was obviously like a superhero movie, like it definitely felt like that, but it really cut its own little corner out for itself, which was just really nice to me. It felt distinct, but not drastically different, which is cool, because I know James Gunn said he wanted to adapt stories that feel, you know, different from each other and unique, similar to how the various comic books would, which is, you know, probably what they're going to do for something like Clayface, which is coming up in a few months. Now, I know a lot of people hated the VFX in this movie, but one thing that I will say about the movie is that the heat vision, man, oh my god, bro, Kara looks badass when she's like full on heat vision coming out of her face. She looked so much cooler than Superman, and she used it like, I feel like, way more than him as well. I don't know, every heat vision scene I was locked in, man. Like, she looked so great. Yeah, so just going back, like, I feel there were a lot of good emotional moments in this movie, but they weren't necessarily executed perfectly, because towards the end of the movie things start to feel super rushed, and those strong moments kind of don't really have any build up, and they just like end. So that being said, it's time to talk about the cons. Now, a lot of people obviously don't like this movie. So yeah, the main issue I see with people about this movie is the writing. So now I'm gonna kind of cut deep, and I'm probably gonna compare it to the comic a lot more. So the writer of this movie, I think her name is, you pronounce it Anna Nogueira. I don't know if I'm saying that wrong. People hate this woman, and I need to make it clear. Like, I don't want to send hate, right? I don't want to send hate to anybody, but whoever hired this woman, like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong? I'm pretty sure this is her first feature film, which is already like kind of questionable, right? Like on its own. Like this is the second film in the big new DCU, and you hire like this woman who basically hasn't written a big feature film before, which is it's kind of weird. Like I know she's probably worked on some smaller things and stuff like that, but that's just kind of insane to me, you know? Also, like there was, I think, a Variety interview with her that came out that is just mind-boggling. That it shows that it almost makes me think it's impossible not to hate this movie. Like I just need to show you this. So basically what she says is that the book ends with Ruthie killing Krem. This just should never have happened. And I just finished reading the book, so like seeing this now just pisses me off. So basically she says the ending between Kara and Krem was always in the script from the pitch. She said truly from the very beginning. She says, and I quote, "The comic ends with Ruthie killing Krem, but in the far, far future." And she says it's kind of a dark ending because he's changed and become this different person, but she kills him because she feels he deserves it anyways. Which, like, I cannot, I can't believe this. Like, a lot of people have been pointing out how could you misinterpret the final page of the comic? Like, how could you completely misunderstand the comic? And before I just explode real quick, the final page of this comic is extremely confusing. There's so, like, I remember when I finished reading it, I just stared at it like, what? Because it seems like Ruthie is describing that Kara stabs Krem through the chest, but what we're seeing is her smacking him with her cane and him bleeding and then falling to the ground, and then he looks like he's dead. But I knew Kara didn't kill him just because of what I was seeing on the book, right? So I was like sitting there thinking about it for 5 minutes, and I just couldn't understand what it meant, because if Kara really killed him, it kind of flipped the whole point of the book on its ass, and like it became a 0 out of 10. So I just had to look it up. And so basically, because I didn't pay enough attention, she's writing a book that's like, the book is narrated by Ruthie and she's writing it. And so in the book, she ends it with Kara killing Krem so that the brigands, the group that Krem is with, can hate Supergirl and not Ruthie, which makes sense, which is fine, it's still kind of a weird ending, but it's fine. Like, I just need people to understand, like, even though that ending of the book is extremely confusing, if you just look at the page, you can tell that Kara never kills Krem. And oh my god, like this is just so crazy to me. Like, I don't understand how this Anna Nogueira or whatever misinterpreted this so badly. Like, even if you just read the last page of the book, it very obviously tells you Supergirl kills Krem, which is not the ending you're supposed to get. That's like the fake ending. But like, even just reading it, it tells you she, like, that Ruthie didn't kill Krem, which, like, so how did she even get there? And the thing that pisses me off the most, I think it's like the very first page of the book, Ruthie herself says Supergirl deals the final blow and kills Krem or something. Like, how do you not see that? Like, how do you just glance over? It's on the first and the last page. Like, this is what I mean. Like, this woman should have never, like, gotten this script. And I literally can't believe how this was okayed through many people, and like, everybody just agreed, yeah, we're doing it like this. And I'm pretty sure she even said somewhere that James Gunn was also, like, with her on this ending, and he said this was one of his favorite comics. Like, I don't know if that means he misunderstood it too, but like, it's just mind-boggling to me. Like, I can't understand this. They completely flipped the end of the comic on its ass, essentially. And Anna Nogueira or whatever, she, in an interview, I think, I forgot which one it was, she basically ended up saying she wanted to create Krem to be this more terrible villain, which is why they do like the child trafficking stuff. They really wanted you to hate him so that when Supergirl eventually kills him, it feels earned. Which is just so weird, man. Because like in the comic, Krem actually lives, and that like it makes sense in the context of the book. And Tom King came out and said that Krem he's definitely alive, and that Supergirl or Ruthie did not kill him. He was just imprisoned in the Phantom Zone for like 500 years or whatever, and he came out a better person. Another big con of the film. Now, okay, I'm gonna come out and say that I did not watch the interview. I only saw this clip, so this could be taken somewhat out of context. But on top of the writer completely misunderstanding the book's meaning, like Craig Gillespie came out and said himself, he purposefully did not read the comic book. I actually don't think you could have got a worse combination with him choosing that decision and Anna Nogueira completely misunderstanding the book. It is baffling that this somehow got okayed through all these people, especially James Gunn, who said he loves the book. Like, it should never have came out like this, man. Another big con I have with this movie, which honestly, from what I've seen is kind of like a hot take, is Supergirl's character. Because the comic book is really about Supergirl questioning her morality, what it means to be good, and how, you know, when you see so much like loss and you're going through so much grief, it can transform you into something that you're not, and that you need to be reminded, you know, of who you are, and that your actions really have an impact on people, and, you know, you can teach people to do good, and it's just a very human journey about being good and being a symbol of hope and whatnot. And so the movie basically, it's really about I mean, as far as Kara's character goes, it's definitely about her basically mourning Krypton and feeling lost. Very like coming of age story, and she feels like she doesn't have a home. Krypton's gone. She doesn't feel at home on Earth. That's why she's, you know, always going to other planets, and she just feels lost in life. She doesn't know where to be or where to go. So that's kind of what her character arc is. So by the end of the movie, Kara ends up coming home to Earth, and she talks to Clark, and she says, you know, Earth is my home, essentially. Like, I am comfortable being here. This is my new home. It may not be Krypton, but this is, you know, I'm ready to stay here. And the movie, I kid you not, bro, it just doesn't make any sense how this happens. Basically, what happens in the movie is that, you know, Kara is helping this girl, or she's kind of helping her. She wants to save her dog because Crypto's hurt, right? So she's tracking him down for that reason. But in the process, she develops a connection with Ruthie, and she wants to essentially preserve Ruthie's innocence, you know, because girls like her, you know, were forced to grow up at a very young age, and like she saw so many terrible things when she was young, and she doesn't want Ruthie to go through that same thing. Even though Ruthie has already been through that, she wants to help preserve Ruthie's innocence. And so in doing so, she teaches Ruthie to be good and to not kill Krem. And she takes on that pain because she is the symbol of hope, and she's already kind of broken, I guess. She takes on that burden of killing someone and deals the finishing blow to Krem, which is like, to me, how do we go from that? And then she's like, okay, Earth is my home now. Like, it doesn't make any sense. There is no real like development in that part of her character arc. Like, I don't know if I'm just stupid, but I wasn't convinced that Supergirl had basically found her new home in Earth. She had become content with what has happened in her life. It wasn't enough to me. Like, I understand her becoming this, you know, doing what she did for Ruthie and how beautiful that is, or what it can be, even though it's definitely a little weird because Superman would never kill anyone, which is really strange to me. Like, I don't know, it's just they definitely went a weird route with the character that I personally am not super strong on. Like that ending is just so iffy, man. But yeah, it really, I just really didn't understand how she ends up being content with Earth. It just kind of gets there, and that was like the worst part of the movie in my opinion. Like I really hated that because I want to love Supergirl, you know. And Millie, she's like I said, she's amazing as Supergirl and as Kara, and I love Kara so much just because of Millie, and you know, like she's just amazing, man. Like, so I can't hate this character, but man, I wish her character arc was just written a little better, because I know this is kind of like her origin story ish for this universe. So yeah, I think that was a big fumble in the writing area. Yeah, it kind of ends up feeling that Supergirl just didn't have her moment. It feels like the script was just kind of confused with what they were doing with Supergirl. Like it kind of seemed like they were adapting the comic and they reversed it, because in the comic Ruthie is the one telling Kara not to kill Krem, but in the movie it's Kara telling Ruthie not to kill Krem, which just, it honestly doesn't make sense, because in the comic Kara was already a superhero on Earth. Like she had already been content with that, and she was just already like, it was obvious that she was hurting because of Krypton and whatnot. But in the movie, she's not a real superhero like yet on Earth, and so she's struggling to be content with living on Earth. And so it was kind of established early on that the movie was kind of trying to be about Kara coming to terms with her past, you know, losses, and finally accepting her new life and becoming this symbol of hope on Earth and or for the galaxy and whatnot. But that just didn't happen. It got lost along the way, and it kind of became about Ruthie and about just being good, which I don't know. It just felt all over the place towards the end, and like it just ended up and Kara was on Earth and she was like, "Yep, this is my home." Also, another thing, the editing in this movie was atrocious, like absolutely terrible. There were so many times like I was watching the action sequences and I was like, I feel like this is cool, but the way it's cut up is so ugly. Like I can't tell what's going on, and I just really like I can't get down with it. Like, there were so many moments in the movie where I just felt that exact feeling. Like whoever was editing this movie, like it just looked so bad. And also the color grading was a very strange choice, because obviously the book is extremely vibrant and colorful and full of life when it's kind of dark, but this movie is like just gray and brown, which it could be fine, but it just, I don't know, it ended up looking kind of ugly a lot of the time. I also saw a lot of people hating on Krem and how he wasn't really a good villain, which honestly, he didn't really have to be like this super well thought out, good written villain, so I kind of didn't understand that, because the story was really just about Kara and Ruthie and like, you know, them dealing with their personal grief, and Krem is just like kind of like this physical manifestation of like their hate or like the bad. So like I think it's fine that he was kind of weak, but yeah, he was a weak villain, definitely not memorable for sure, which he was also basically the same way in the comic. Just towards the end of this movie, there were so many things that like just happened. Like you can tell the last third of the movie was so all over the place. Like for one, Supergirl ends up going to this planet and it has a green sun, which is like a bad sun for Kryptonians. Like it poisons them, like a kryptonite sun basically, or whatever. In the comic, this place was made to imprison Superman, so like it had a purpose. In this movie, the sun there literally just happens to be green, which is like, oh, like wow, what a coincidence. That sucks, because Superman and Supergirl are not extremely well established heroes in this universe yet, so it wouldn't make sense that Krem and the Brigands have made this planet to fight Kryptonians basically. And in the comic, the planet, or I mean in the movie, sorry, the planet has a green and a yellow sun, which is like also extremely convenient. Like, and on top of this, when Supergirl is fighting the brigands, they pull out a kryptonite gun and shoot her, which absolutely makes zero sense. The only other Kryptonian alive, from what we know, is Superman. And Superman seems like he basically only works on Earth at this point, right? So how the hell would the brigands know that Kryptonians' weaknesses are kryptonite, and they would have that ready to shoot them with? And because in the comic it makes sense, because obviously Superman and Supergirl are already well-established heroes, and the brigands have conquered planets and they take things and whatnot, so it makes sense that they would be ready for a threat like this. But in the movie, it just makes zero sense. And like, also when, this is kind of like a nitpick, but towards the end, when Supergirl puts on her suit, I don't know if I missed something, but her suit just like happened to be there, and she just put it on. Because the last time we saw her suit, it was like in her ship. But like when she woke up from the yellow sun or whatever, her suit just happened to be on a rock or something. Which, I mean, they needed to get her in the suit somehow. But like, that was just really funny to me. The last con that I forgot to talk about. What, like, literally one of the worst parts, well, honestly, one of the worst things I've ever seen in a comic book movie was the needle drop at the end of the movie. The song they chose to play at the end of the battle, like, I was baffled. It literally took me out of the film. I was so distraught. Like, I couldn't, I was sitting in the chair and I was like, oh my god, I'm watching a movie right now and they actually just play this. Like, I can't believe this. Like, it literally, it takes you out of the movie so much, man. Like, I literally can't take it serious. It's one of the worst song decisions I've ever seen. And and people were hating on Craig Gillespie for it, and he came out and said that they were like going through like 45 songs or something, looking for the right song, and that James Gunn was the one to pick the perfect song for the movie, which is so funny. Like, he was so quick to throw James under the bus, but I can't believe they went through so many songs and they ended up like choosing that. But yeah, I mean, that was like mostly my cons for the movie. Like, I just think it's really odd that, you know, Supergirl and Superman are supposed to be these like beings of hope, and that you know, they're supposed to protect and love. And, you know, at the end of the movie, Supergirl kind of decides to be the one to commit the big bad deed and, you know, kill someone. Like, she takes on that burden, which is just weird because, you know, like, Superman wouldn't do that. I don't think that Supergirl would do that. She didn't do it in the comic. So, I don't know. I found it very odd that happened. I mean, yeah, this is definitely going to end up being one of the first flops for the DCU, which definitely isn't a good sign, but I did see that Peter Safran himself actually came out and made a statement saying, while Supergirl didn't meet our box office expectations, it's just one component of a broader long-term strategy at DC Studios that we remain confident in, which I think is really good, honestly, because that's good to hear from my perspective, from a fan's perspective, because it tells me that they haven't lost their vision and they're not going to freak out and just start pumping out movies that suck that they hope will make money, like they did with the DCEU. So, yeah. Do I hate this movie? No. Do I think it's really good? No. I really don't like what they did with Supergirl's character, but I think the movie is fine. All things said, it's just fine. Like, I give it a 7 out of 10. It's definitely a fun watch. You will enjoy it. But yeah, I think overall people are overhating it. I've seen a lot of people come out and say this movie was actually fun and I enjoyed it, which I think it is, because I came out of the theater feeling like that. It's not a bad movie. It really isn't. You'll definitely go watch it and enjoy it. It's not like boring, bad, like it's not like the worst movie ever. Like, people are saying this movie is worse than Thor: The Dark World. Like, are you serious? There's no way. And it's crazy how movies back then made money and movies like this won't. Like, it's actually insane to me. And the fact that this movie has like a 56 or 57 on Rotten Tomatoes and it's rotten is crazy to me, man. There are like so many of the most recent superhero MCU movies even that have come out have just been terrible. Apart from like maybe Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four was fine too. But like it makes no sense to me that Supergirl has gotten a 57 or whatever. Like this movie is not bad. It does not deserve all that hate that it's getting. And I do think that if you watch it, you will enjoy it. Okay, as I'm recording this, I literally just got news that DC is prioritizing a Bane and Deathstroke film. What what are we doing? Like, oh my god. But yeah, this is definitely a big loss for the DCU. I don't think it's a bad movie. I don't think it should be losing them as much money as it's gonna. If this movie came out in like 2010, it would make like probably like $600 million. So it just kind of sucks that, you know, we're at this era where superhero movies aren't doing as good. And I think, you know, the path for DC that they have isn't the smartest path, because I think the general audience needs to be attracted to things like Wonder Woman and Batman before they can start delving into smaller characters like Clayface or Swamp Thing, or, you know, like bro, James Gunn is making the Jimmy Olsen show, and like he just announced a bunch of these new DC shows, which is like, yeah, I'm gonna watch it. I am, because I like DC and I like this stuff. But like, what are we doing, bro? Like make the Justice League, bro. If you want to make money, you need to get the general audience's attention first. Like, I don't know. It's kind of, maybe their vision is like 1 million IQ and I just don't see it. But, you know, I am a little scared because this is their first big loss so early on the new DCU basically movie agenda. But yeah, go watch Supergirl. It's a fun watch. And anybody who's hating Millie, you're weird.